All right, let's dive into something maybe a little unexpected today. It's all about our feet.
Uh-huh.
You ever hear people say, oh my gosh, my feet must be shrinking?
Yeah, yeah. All the time.
Well, it turns out that that's actually a total myth.
Is.
And today we're going to explore why our feet actually grow as we age and why finding the right fit,
Right.
especially in wider footwear,
Yeah.
is so crucial for comfort and avoiding some of those pesky foot problems.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how many people I talk to actually think that their feet are shrinking over time.
Right.
But when we look at the science, it actually tells a very different story as we get older. The ligaments and the tendons that support our arches,
Yeah,
they kind of lose their elasticity.
I see.
Think of it like a rubber band
Oh, yeah.
that's been used over and over again.
Like a well-loved one.
Exactly. It just doesn't have that same snapback that it used to.
So it's really not our imagination that our shoes are feeling a little tighter these days.
Not at all.
It's this loss of elasticity that's causing our feet to actually flatten and spread out, making them both longer and wider.
Absolutely. And on top of that, we can't forget about some major life events too, like pregnancy, for instance.
Yeah?
For many women, pregnancy can actually lead to some pretty permanent changes in foot size, and that's because
Oh, wow.
these hormonal shifts can actually relax the ligaments in the feet,
Like,
making them a lot more prone to growth.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
So how common are we talking about here? Are wide feet, are we talking about a small percentage of the population, or is this something that a lot of us experience?
You might be surprised to learn that studies show about 15 to 20% of adults
Wow,
already have wide feet.
that's a lot.
And that number just keeps going up as we age.
I see.
So if you're thinking right now, wait a second, do I need wider shoes?
Yeah.
You're definitely not alone.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. But this is all super interesting, but why should we care so much? What does it actually mean for us in our everyday lives? Why is it so important to wear the right size, especially when our feet are changing like this?
You know, Imagine trying to walk around all day
Yeah.
with your toes crammed in a tiny little box.
Oh my gosh.
It's not only uncomfortable, but it can cause a whole bunch of foot problems. And we're not just talking about minor annoyances here,
Right.
like corns and calluses. It can also be some pretty serious issues like bunions, hammer toes, you name it.
Oh, I can feel the pain just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about the discomfort, is it?
No.
I mean, wearing shoes that don't fit right can really mess with our balance and our gait,
Absolutely.
which can increase our risk of falling and injuries.
Exactly. And there's a research paper that was published in Observational Study Medicine,
Okay.
and they actually found that a huge 67%
Wow.
of elderly patients were
Yeah.
actually wearing inadequate footwear,
That's a lot.
which is a major red flag, especially because older adults are already a lot more vulnerable to foot issues, as is.
Wow. So we've established that proper fit is absolutely essential.
It is.
But how do we actually make sure
Right.
that we are wearing the right size, especially when we're talking about wide shoes?
Well, first of all, I think we have to get rid of any shoe size vanity
Yeah.
and accept the truth. And the truth is our feet change.
They do?
The first step is to get our feet measured professionally.
Okay.
And I can't stress that enough. Even if you think you know your size,
Yeah.
it's always good to double check.
Right. And there are certain brands that we should probably mention that do specialize in wider fits,
Yeah,
like Prophet and Haas Boot Co.
exactly.
They're known for their very comfortable
Yes.
and stylish
Yeah.
wide width options.
Absolutely. And here's another little pro tip. Measure your feet at the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
That's when they're at their largest
Right.
because of natural swelling throughout the day.
Yeah.
This is going to help you get the most accurate measurement
Makes
and
sense.
help you avoid that too tight feeling later on.
So it's really not just about the length then, right?
Yeah.
Width matters too.
Oh, there's a lot.
Can you break down the shoe width measurement system for us a little bit?
Of course. So shoe widths are typically designated by letters
Okay.
and starting with D as that standard width.
Got it.
So as you go up the alphabet, like
Yeah.
E2E, 4E, and so on,
Yeah.
each letter is going to represent a wider fit.
I see.
So think of it like clothing sizes,
Okay.
where a small might be comparable to a D width and a large would be more like a 2E or even wider.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
So it's not about squeezing into a certain number.
exactly.
It's about finding the letter that really corresponds to your foot's width.
Absolutely.
Now let's dive a little bit deeper into the specifics.
Okay.
What are some of the features of shoes that are especially important for people with wider feet? What should we be looking for? And even more importantly, maybe, what should we try to avoid?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we talk about wide footwear, it's not just, just finding a shoe that's roomy.
Right.
It's about actually understanding the anatomy of our feet and how the right shoe can prevent discomfort and problems later down the road.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned before things like corns and calluses.
Right.
What exactly are those, and why are they so common in people who wear shoes that are too tight?
So corns and calluses are like your foot's way of saying, hey, this is too much.
Okay.
They're basically your defense mechanism against constant friction or pressure.
I see.
So think about it. If you're wearing a shoe that's rubbing against a particular spot day after day, your skin's natural reaction is going to be to try to protect itself. And it does that by building up these extra layers in those
It's
areas.
almost like a little armor.
Exactly.
Okay.
So corns usually pop up on like the tops or sides of the toes, while calluses tend to form on the soles, like under heels or the balls of the feet.
So it's like our feet are sending us a message. Hey, the shoe is attacking me.
Exactly.
But what about those more serious issues you mentioned before, like bunions and hammer toes?
Yeah,
Are those also related to wearing the wrong shoe size?
they absolutely are. A bunion is that bony bump that forms at the base of the big toe, causing it to angle inward towards the other toes.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's a direct result of wearing shoes that are too narrow in the toe box.
Yeah.
So it's constantly forcing that big toe out of alignment.
So it's like the shoe is constantly pushing it in the wrong direction.
Exactly. And over time, all that pressure just creates that bony protrusion.
And what about hammer toes?
So a hammer toe is a deformity where the toe bends abnormally at the middle joint.
Oh,
It kind of looks like a hammer.
I can see.
And it can happen to any toe, but it usually affects the second toe.
Okay.
And once again, a lot of times this is caused by shoes that are just too small, too cramped.
Uh-huh.
They force those toes into this really unnatural position.
Yeah.
And over time, the muscles and tendons in the toe can actually shorten,
Wow.
leading to a permanent bend in the joint.
So these foot problems are essentially our feet just rebelling against shoes that don't fit.
They are. They're trying to tell us something. We need
Yeah.
to listen.
Okay, but let's get back to the good news. You know,
Right.
finding shoes that do fit.
Yeah.
We talked about measurements,
Yes.
but are there other things that we should consider when shopping for wide footwear?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about matching, your foot length and width to a size on a chart.
Right.
You got to think about the overall shape of your foot.
Okay.
The kind of arch support you need,
Sure.
even the materials of the shoe.
So it's a lot more nuanced than just, grabbing any random E-size shoe and calling it a day.
It is.
Okay, so what types of shoes are generally good for wider feet?
Right.
And are there certain, brands or styles that you'd recommend?
I always say think comfort and customization.
Yeah.
You want shoes that feel like they were made for you, not like you're trying to squeeze your feet into a mold.
Right.
So generally, you want to look for styles that offer like a wide toe box. Got it. Good arch support
Okay,
and some adjustable features like
Yeah.
laces or straps.
that makes sense.
Loafers and slip-ons can be great, especially if they're designed for comfort. They often have a more relaxed fit
Yeah.
and come in those wider widths.
Oh, I love a good loafer.
Yeah.
What about sandals?
Yeah.
It seems like those would be kind of naturally more accommodating
Totally.
for wider feet.
Sandals with adjustable straps are amazing.
Yeah.
They give your toes plenty of breathing room, and you can adjust them throughout the day,
Right.
which is super helpful if you have any swelling,
Yeah.
which a lot of us do.
Yeah, my feet definitely swell as the day goes on.
Yeah.
What about athletic shoes?
Yeah.
I mean, so many of us rely on those for, running or working out.
Hmm.
Are there good options for wider feet in that category?
Absolutely.
Oh.
So many athletic shoe brands have realized that people need wider sizes.
Uh-huh.
So they've started offering a lot more inclusive options. So when you're shopping for those athletic shoes,
Yeah.
look for things like extra depth in the toe box,
Got it.
adjustable closures like laces or Velcro,
Okay.
and breathable materials.
Right.
Keep those feet cool and comfy.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So it sounds like we have a lot more choices than we realize.
we do.
Speaking of choices, we've mentioned DT Footwear a few times,
Right.
and I have to say their selection is pretty impressive.
It is.
They have everything from those comfy prop-it everyday shoes
Right.
to more specialized athletic brands like SAS and Dr. Comfort.
Exactly. And what's so great about DT Footwear is that they don't just kind of like throw a bunch of shoes at you and hope for the best.
Right.
They have those fitment specialists
Yeah.
who can actually help you find the perfect shoe
Yeah.
for your foot type.
I mean, that's so helpful because, let's be honest, Shoe shopping can be kind of overwhelming,
It can be.
especially when you're trying to navigate all the different brands and the styles and those widths.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a personal shoe guru.
Yeah.
But, even with all these great options,
Right.
is it safe to say that everyone, regardless of foot width,
Yeah.
should really be prioritizing finding shoes that fit well?
100%.
Yeah.
It's not just about comfort.
Uh-huh.
It's about preventing all those problems.
Yeah.
So whether you have narrow feet, wide feet, or somewhere in between,
Right.
make sure you get those feet measured regularly.
Good advice.
And pay attention to how your shoes feel.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to try different brands, different styles until you find what works for you.
Your feet will thank you.
They will.
Now, even though we've been talking a lot about, wide footwear,
Yeah.
are there any broader trends or innovations happening in the footwear industry right now that are kind of exciting to you?
Yeah, there are some really cool things happening right now. One area I'm particularly excited about is the use of 3D printing
Oh, wow.
to create custom fit shoes.
Yeah.
Imagine getting your feet scanned and then having a shoe built specifically for your foot shape.
That's amazing.
It could be a game changer.
Yeah, especially for people with wider feet or anybody who struggles to find the right fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds very futuristic.
It is.
So it's like instead of trying to fit our feet into existing molds, we could actually have shoes molded to our feet.
Exactly.
What about in terms of style? Are there any trends you're seeing that are kind of embracing wider feet and moving away from those kind of narrow, constricting styles?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fashion industry is finally starting to realize that feet come in all shapes and sizes.
It's about time.
Right. So we're seeing a big shift towards more inclusive sizing.
Yeah?
More brands are offering wider width options.
Yeah.
And they're actually stylish.
I love that.
It's not just about comfort anymore.
Yeah.
It's about having options
Right.
that are both stylish and comfortable.
Yeah, it's great to see that wide feet are getting the attention they deserve.
They are.
So it's not just about comfort, it's about having those options that look good and feel good.
Exactly. And gone are the days when, a wide shoe meant settling for something clunky
Right.
or unfashionable.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing everything now from sleek sneakers and sandals to even elegant dress shoes,
Wow.
all available in wider widths.
I love it.
It's a good time for wide feet.
We've talked a lot about DT Footwear
We have.
and their commitment to, offering this wide selection of brands and styles.
Yes,
But what really sets them apart, I think, are those fitment specialists.
absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what they do and how they can help people find those perfect shoes?
Yeah, so think of them as your personal footwear guides.
Okay.
They're trained to understand the unique needs of people with wide feet.
Right.
They can offer expert advice on sizing styles,
Yeah.
brands that might work best for you.
Yeah.
They can even help you identify potential foot problems and recommend solutions.
That's fantastic. So it's almost like having a personal shoe shopper
Yeah.
who really gets it.
Who understands?
And that can make all the difference,
It can.
especially when you're talking about something as important as our foot health.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah, okay.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought.
All right.
We've learned so much about the importance of wide shoes,
Yes.
but there's still so much that we don't know.
Right.
So what kind of research would you like to see done in the future?
I would love to see more research on how different shoe widths
Yeah,
impact things like our gait, our balance, and our overall foot health.
that's interesting.
What if we could gather data on how wider shoes affect things like athletic performance
Right.
or how they can reduce the risk of certain foot problems?
That would be amazing.
It would really change how we design and manufacture shoes
It really would.
and hopefully lead to even more innovative and comfortable options for everyone.
Well, that's something to look forward to for sure. In the meantime, for anyone listening who's ready to prioritize their foot health and discover this whole world of comfortable, stylish, and supportive wide footwear, be sure to check out DT Footwear. Their fitment specialists are ready to guide you on your journey to happy feet. Remember, with the right knowledge and a little bit of care, everyone can find shoes that make their feet feel amazing.